Welcome to another session of Mulesoft Certified Developer Exam Level 2. In this session, I'm going to talk about what kind of question will appear in the exam for Scout and Gather. And for sure, this will be at least 2 or 3 questions, probably 4 or 5 sometime. When I took, I think it has about 4 questions. So we need to understand the details about Scout and Gather routing. So in this session, I'm going to cover a few slides to go through the details and also go through 1 or 2 questions, and then we'll go through Mulesoft document, and then we'll do Anypoint Studio, run few code, and to look into exactly the details about payload, about error handling, about the concurrency set. So let's go through this. First of all, what the question they might ask? They will ask how you're going to run Scout Gather in sequential, because by default it is parallel. I don't think they will ask that question, but for sure they will ask the concurrence question. And this is pretty straightforward. If you ever go into Mulesoft, the configuration, you should be able to answer this. But you have to go through this. So for example, you can see that there's a maximum concurrency. If you set to 1, actually it has, if you see that, if you set to 1, it will run the route, each route in a sequential way. So definitely this is, it will appear, but it's pretty simple, so it shouldn't be a problem. Another question they will ask is to test your understanding of the payload structure. So remember, when you run the Scout Gather, the final is a payload, is a message, is an event. But in that event, there will be a payload under normal conditions, and the payload is linked hash map. It has entries. Each entry will look like this way. They have payload, media, type, and also the attribute. So this we need to understand. And so another question they will ask is how the variables behave. Let's say if you have a variable which set in the beginning, and each of them will modify that variable. What happened? So we'll look into it more detail, but you'll remember it will become an array of values. Actually, this array is interesting. Could be any value. Could be, for example, a number, could be a string, could be some. I mean, if the variable was modified, even the type, so it will honor that. The next question they will be asking: how do you access the error if there is an error thrown in one of the route? So we need to understand how the exception handling works. Basically, you might know from the level 1 test that it has the on error continue, on error propagate. So in general, we don't use on error propagate. because you don't want to stop completely the SCAT and gather routing. So that's why, but if it's used on error continue, so how do you access, the successful payload? How do you access the error payload? So basically, it's look like that. Remember, when it's error, everything will be into error and error message and payload. Under payload, there's the failures, and also there's a result. In the result, you look for successful result. In the failure, you look for the failure result. So let's look at this is the practical exam, and the real exam is, I think, has one of the exactly same, not exact, but the very similar question they will ask, check your understanding how variable was propagated. And there's another question is set concurrency. So definitely this is the two values they will ask. And as I said, this will also be asked for sure. So we need to understand this. So given that, let's look we need to also look into the Mulesoft document. There are a few things we need to understand with a SCAT together. And this is a Payload document. You should read for sure, because you see this is the how the talk about variable propagation, error handling. See this. If you read this question, you should be able to pass this topic. So I think that will be covered. And look at this also. You see that it's XML reference on that. There's a timeout, concurrency, target, and the route. So one thing you should notice here is that if the value is 0 or lower than 0, it means no timeout. Actually, this is not true when you run it, but if it appears in the exam, make sure follow this. But current Mule implementation is not correct. I'll show you on that as well. So let's go to the Endpoint Studio and let's take a look one of this. So let's set equal to 0. This will not compile actually. And this is what we talk about. You can set a timeout to a value 0, and first let's test this. So it will fail when you try to run it. Let's save it. So let me make sure. So you see I set to 0. And let's see how it goes. So it will fail when they try to create the flow. You see now it failed, right? So let's look at the failure message. So yeah, it's pretty long here. Man, okay. You can see that this timeout must be greater than 0. So, but according to document, it should be able to set to 0, right? So if they, I haven't seen in my exam it didn't show this, but if you in year one, you never know, it might show this. But just answer that you said 0 will be infinite. Another thing is we need to understand the default. Actually, they didn't show the default value, so this is optional. You don't have to. And even this target is optional. So this is all optional. You don't have to put anything there. So if you don't put, it will still run. So this is, but let's quickly run this one. So let's run this. This will concurrently run the route 1 and route 2. The will be a 2 thread will create in running in parallel. And what I did, I just log the payload. So, and I will log the var, because remember my previous code I set to var, this will be now. So actually this will be an issue. So I should let's remove this. We don't need that. We don't need this because I didn't set anything. So let's see if it's done. So let's save it. It will rerun this without. I remove that. You can test yourself when you put a target. Remember, when you put target, this payload, this original payload will be come over here. This also may test you in the exam. So this need to pay attention. So let's run this. So okay, because you see that this is Java utility linked hash map. So this, remember, this is the payload, how the payload, final payload look like. And let's look the log message here. So you see that it run the route 2, route 1. So because if I run in a sequential way, it will do this first and this will be the second. But you can see as I'm doing parallel, it will run like in a parallel way. And this is the payload. You see the payload here, route 1, and this is the payload media type and also the attribute. This is a array or it's a linked hash map. You see the 0 elements like this, right? So we should see 1 like this. See the 1 here, and the payload is this, and attribute. So this is the case. So let's run the case with concurrency and see what happens. Let's put a 1 here and save it. Remember, I said last time it will be run this one first and this one second. And this one, it will run sequentially, run 1 first and second, I think. But let's test this. So I think it's done. And let's run this. Okay. So let's go to log. Okay. Yeah, you see that? It run 1 first and 2 second. Before, if you don't do that, it doesn't guarantee in that sequential. So this is the same payload. But we can run again, make sure that it always do the 1 first. So let's see. Yeah, you see that? This is how the sequential way, right? It always run this in sequence. Okay, so we did the normal case, and I have a error case here. So basically, I have error condition. So it will fail because they say it's empty collection, but I put a value this is not empty. It's non-empty array. Basically, array is a collection. So let's run this and see what happened. So error, right? So go back here and do error, and now. So now you see, we see the payload. If you look at the code, what I did in this. It will go through error and come over here, right? So I have, I said, okay, give me the failure of the first failure. And because I didn't run actually I run in the sequential way. So it will be do the transform first and do the second. So let's look at the result. So 1 failure, and let's look at that, make sure the code is, we did, okay. So failure 0 and failure 1. So only 1 failure, so it will be, so this one will be it's not route 1, route 2, but it will fail you can see that collection is not empty. And if I try to look at and then I say failure message, okay, this is how I got the failure message is the description. And then if I say, okay, give me the second is null. That means the second route is successful. And if I look at the route 1 result, the success one is like this. Because there's a failure, so the second they reorder the successful payload because this does not honor the route numbers. So we have to find a way to figure out which route is successful, which route is failed. But to remember, it never, because this error out, it will never, whatever you put here, it will never execute. And in the exam, they will ask you how to handle this. So one way is that put a try catch skip to each of them. Inside this, we can catch all the error. In the real development, we will put a reference here, flow reference, and then we put a try and catch. So in that way, we can handle special error in each route. So this is just for the simple understanding how the flow works, how the error handling works, what is payload, how the variable propagate. Even though this is the level 2, but I don't think they will they test in the next level. I think in the architect integration architect, they will test you again on how you're going to handle different cases. But for the developer level 2, unfortunately, they didn't go deep enough. To me, they should ask you how to handle different scenario. But Mulesoft think that is more architect level. So yeah, so this basically cover the Scott gather routing pattern. With this, you should pass. I mean, these 3 questions you should get it for sure. The only thing I would say, if you are not pay attention, is that concurrency and how to access the error payload, how to access the successful payload. Make sure you must remember this, because I guarantee this will appear in the exam. All right. I think given that we can finish this session. In the next session, I'm going to cover the custom policy. That is a bigger one. It will have about 5 questions related to the custom policy. All right. We'll see you in the next session. We'll end in here.